Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 74 of IGEL Weekly. I'm your host, Andy Whiteside. Today is March 7th, 2023. Did a bunch of podcasts yesterday. I had to say it was March 6th. And painful to say that we're, 1/6 of the way through 23. Got Barry Browne from XenTegra with me. Barry, how's it going?
Pretty good. It's pretty scary when you say we're a third of the way through 2023. Like, what happened? Where'd the time go?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. At least winter's on the way out. At least from my neck of the woods, all the snow is slowly going to start disappearing, and spring will spring, and we'll get on to doing summer activities.
Well, how true is that where you live? Here we have, early March and then mid-March, all of a sudden something hits us, not bad. I have to assume up there, early, mid-April even, you're like, oh, what's coming next week? Who knows?
No, March is the month for that because it's March break here, so it's always dicey whether we can travel or not with the kids to go off to our events. But come April 1, we can safely look at the snow in the rearview mirror where I am because I'm right on the coast. But folks who are in Montreal,
Oh,
Toronto,
yeah.
Central Canada, they have a little more to go.
Yeah, they got that, you got that coastal warming effect.
You got it.
Keep it up a little bit. Okay. Well, Chris Feeney is with us from IGEL. Chris was just commenting about flying back from Disrupt Germany in Munich. And I guess it's just the way it is. I flew to Europe recently, and you go up the coast and then you take a hard right. Can one of you guys explain to me? He was commenting about flying back over Barry's house. He thought, why is it? Why do you, when you fly to Europe from, let's say, the central east coast of the United States, why do you go up and over like Iceland to get there?
That's the curvature of the earth.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not a geographer, but I think it has to do with the curve of the earth. So they go up and around to deal with the curve.
Yeah. So a little side story. So when my first job at college, I worked for a defense contractor, and they were in the world of satellites and intercontinental ballistic missiles. And I learned a lot. I'm like, they were showing me some of the simulations, like if a missile gets launched, how are they firing it? Where's it going? And they were literally shooting it like over the North Pole. I'm like, what the heck? And then that kind of got into other things like learning about airline traffic, because I think they had at one point they had just opened up a new route somewhere, and they were literally flying like almost over the North Pole. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. If something happens to the plane, but it's literally like the curvature of the earth, the shortest path to get there. And so that's what I've learned. That's why they do it.
It's amazing. If you look at that website, Flight 24 or Radar 24 or something like that, you can actually see the path all the planes take right over Iceland down specifically into London, coming from my neck of the woods. It's a perfect arc, hour after hour. It's kind of amazing to watch.
I guess that leads to a lot of traffic, airline traffic above you guys. Is it so high that you don't see it?
Well, where I am, they built the airport, maybe, I don't know, 60 kilometers away from me, in their infinite wisdom, because it wouldn't be foggy if it away from the coast. But it's the complete opposite of that. It's super, super foggy out by the airport. So we get flights delayed, all kinds. And I'm far enough away from the airport that I don't see a plane at all. It's rare we see one in Halifax.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Philadelphia airport. I had a summer flight that I couldn't take off from Raleigh for like an hour and a half. And I was like, what's going on? It's like July. And because there was fog that was blocking whatever ability to get in and out of Philly's airport, I'm just like, all right, I'm never going through Philly again.
So, Chris, you just got back from Disrupt in Munich. By the way, we're going to be in Disrupt in Nashville in early April. I just got off a marketing call for that one. One of the other partner groups is they're putting on a big event there. Awesome. Good for them. They do their one big bash a year, try to take over this conference too. I'm a little miffed at the moment. Bad behavior gets rewarded in our world way too often, but nonetheless, Chris, you were in Munich, and the big announcement was what?
IGEL's new platform called Cosmos. And it was unveiled on stage at our kickoff, and then of course in the Disrupt event, which was right after that. And Cosmos is actually a combination of several things. The operating system is still one of those. The UMS is one of those, but it's several things under that new branding name, Cosmos. So that was the big announcement. And you'll hear more about it in Nashville. It officially is going out in April. I think something like April 16th or 18th or something like that. What are those mid-April dates? Just in time for tax day. So, but yeah, it has been.
So
Yeah,
Chris,
sorry.
the name of the blog that we're going over is IGEL Unveils Cosmos, the unified end-user computing platform for secure managed access to any, I'm going to say cloud, I'm going to add the word and digital workspace. I think we overuse the word cloud too much, but I get the point here. It's marketing term cloud. Powerful modular platform delivers unmatched flexibility to future-proof the hybrid multi-cloud digital workspace. And I'll put on my Andyism on the end of that, which is it ain't Windows, and you wouldn't use Windows to connect to Windows and other things. Why would you use Windows? Well, you wouldn't get in a car to drive to meet your Uber driver. That's my new one I keep using all the time. But why use Windows to connect to Windows? IGEL has historically been in this space to provide that access. What is unique about Cosmos that's different here, Chris?
Well, if you scroll down, there's a little graphic there that will kind of highlight a few things. We'll just pause there for just a second. And if you're ever watching this video, you'll get a chance to see it. But there's some new cloud services. There's stuff that we kind of already had out there. Folks will be familiar with our license portal, our customer portal, all already in the cloud. The new stuff, the biggest one probably is what's called the IGEL onboarding service. And so in version 11 and 10 of our software, it was multiple steps to get a device, licensed and ready to go. And then we've basically taken that process now and shortened it to like 4 things. What country are you in? Keyboard layout. What time zone? If you want to let it auto detect, it'll even figure that out. What's your email address, and get on a network if it's already plugged in or if it's Wi-Fi. Those things, that's it. And then once you have that, then the machine will connect in and then begin the process of getting configured, licensed, and ready to go. And then what's also brand new, just as important, is version 12 of the operating system and management piece. We've separated out the firmware and the apps. So the IGEL OS itself, now it's just about a 1 gig. And then all the other apps are going to be separated out and available through what's called the app portal. I got to make sure I don't call it the store. Otherwise, I think I get a bill from Apple. But that app portal will have the Citrix Workspace app, the Horizon client, a browser, various things like that, as you might imagine.
So, Chris, can I ask a question? Just the way you're explaining that. So if I'm a Citrix shop, I'm using IGEL to connect in. Does that mean, I get my base OS and I only download Citrix Workspace from Linux, and that's the only piece I need? Or because I know in version 11 we get all the bits for Horizon, for various other backends, I guess, for lack of a better word. Is that the idea, to slim down the base OS?
Yeah, in fact, they were talking about it in Munich. The OS is actually an app now, if you will. Literally, it's in the store. You see it as I just called it a store. It's in the portal as an app, and you can see, next version, whatever, that type of thing. So it's that general idea that it will be separated out, and you only need what you have, right? I mean, I don't need. I'm not a VMware shop. I just need Citrix. Okay, fantastic. So a slimmer OS, but also what's really cool is now that we've separated these things out, imagine I need to do an emergency update of the Citrix app. Okay, great. Pull it down, whatever. You can just update the app. You don't have to reboot the machine in many cases. Very similar to your phone experience. So that, I think, is going to be huge in many places where they can't afford a downtime or very little room for it, when you can just separate out the updates. Of course, if there's a security update, whatever, you need it, that often, at least I'm noticing lately, my app or my phone gets more security updates lately and does require that install and reboot experience. But most of the time, it's just apps get updated and I'm fine.
Yeah, for me, that's a game changer, right? Because today you want to upgrade your version of Citrix Workspace, for example. You're looking at a a 3 gig install of the new version of the operating system. Then you got to redeploy a new profile with the new version. But if I'm talking about downloading a couple of 100 MB for a new version of Citrix, that's a whole lot more palatable for IGEL administrators.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of great things that come out of this. The nice thing is, if you see on the graphic there, the management console will be able to support your version 11 and the new version 12 stuff. So you'll be able to manage that. I'm at a point now where I'm going to rebuild my entire lab on UMS 12, and I'll have both things, and that's going to be my new thing going forward. And
So
then,
Chris,
yeah,
let's talk about the greatness of this, as Barry was just pointing out, the idea that this thin client operating system, Edge OS, connector to the clouds, connector to digital workspace is moving forward. This is a huge thing in our industry. For many, many years, and way too many years, the thin client providers were very hardware centric, and the operating system that was really the magic of the thin client was left a little under evolved. You guys entered the industry and made it software based, elevated the game on the legacy game, and this is just a game changer in terms of what it looks like to make a smart dumb operating system, a smart thin operating system. This is huge.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's definitely an evolution. Dare I say revolution, perhaps? But
how
certainly.
About this? If IGEL hadn't come along, we'd still have the same old crappy thin clients and thin client operating system that we had 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've, hit the market in a lot of good timing of things, right? There's been the shift to the cloud. I remember looking at this and trying to get a sense of, when would we really see the massive uptick of that? This is like 6 years ago, roughly. And here we are. And so a lot of and by the way, I haven't even talked about the net new experience from managing IGEL. The UMS is going to be primarily web-based console. We'll still have the Java look and feel, but the web is much more powerful and feature rich than previous versions. So, but all of this is kind of integrated to be able to help customers manage the old as well as the new, and then eventually everything's on the new. So
that brings up a question I've thinking about in the back of my mind, Chris, is I see on the chart we're looking at here, it supports OS 11, OS 12. Now where IGEL has made the transition from a hardware company into a software only company. What does that mean for customers running IGEL hardware on OS 11? It can be fully managed in this environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And it doesn't matter what hardware. I mean, at some point, honestly, if they go through, I'm going to upgrade from 11 to 12. 12, I need to get the details on sort of if I've got I've got firmware with everything built in, and then I upgrade to 12. What'll happen with the apps, for example? That piece I admittedly don't have the details yet. I know it's out there. I just don't have it on this podcast. But going forward, I think with a lighter OS version, so it's about 1 gig. I looked at it in the portal versus today it's 3 gigs, only because we've got all that stuff built into it. You separate that out and you strip it down to only the things you need. I think you're actually going to extend the life of certain hardware to include our, thin clients that we've had in years past. Go ahead.
So let me tie some things together here. This is a systematic way, a modern way to take a piece of hardware and apply a Linux operating system on it that is secure, locked down, managed. And if you only lay down the bits and pieces of what you need for the solution that you're connecting to, you've essentially done what the other guys did in a very old, antiquated way 10 plus years ago. And you've created what most people had in their hand, but didn't know they were calling it the wrong term. They were calling it what the marketing guys told them to call it, which was a zero client.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point. But I will say this: it is a beautiful looking OS. I'll just say that.
Well, I want to take a moment to move away from that too fast. If you're listening to this and you think you know what a zero client is, chances are you don't, and you've been misled by I'll say Dell Weiss at some point in the past as to what a zero client really is. A zero client has firmware on it. It has an operating system. It's just stripped down to the bare minimums it needed to do what it was trying to do. That's essentially what you guys are doing here, but you're making it a smart zero client.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true. And the other thing too is in those older zero clients, I mean, it was one protocol. I've had in my time here at IGEL almost 5 years now. I mean, had customers where, they were locked in, but they were making a change and they were switching from, vendor A to B, and they couldn't get there with what they had. And so they needed to look at another way to do it. And that was often, is it a software play? We just put ROS on that device now, and now we can open up to multiple protocols that they could use, or they just shift to a net new hardware anyway, because the older zero client was only capable of so much.
Yeah.
But IGEL certainly with the software play has
So let me put it this way.
Yeah.
So I've been in this industry 20 plus years. The zero client, which I had a front row seat to because I was one of the very first people to see and experience one, is the most unethical thing that ever happened in our industry.
You got to expand on that, Andy. You can't drop a bombshell like that. Let's
I know where he's going. Go ahead.
So essentially, it was promoted as this lightweight, smart thing to do, and it was really just vendor lock-in all along. Because once you locked into that, 1,000 endpoints or 20 endpoints, depending on your company, you couldn't go adopt another digital workspace provider's technology. If you had vendor X, you would have to replace all your endpoints. If you had vendor Y, you had to replace all your endpoints. It was a lock-in strategy from day one that was presented to the rest of us like it was something special and lightweight and faster. It was lightweight and faster only because you stripped out all the competitors. It was unethical from day one. And in fact, it's kind of lost. When's the last time you hear people really talking about zero clients? You don't talk about zero clients anymore, because at some point, either the marketing lost its mojo or people got smart enough to realize, hey, this was already a thin OS. Why did I need to strip out a couple of protocols and make it thinner? Well, that was just deception.
All great points, I think. And then, of course, like I said earlier, IGEL comes along, and the thing that always stood out to me, first of all, the management tool, but the be able to repurpose devices, that was a game changer at the time it first came out. And it really still is. A big part of what was also discussed, not necessarily on this blog, but was the sustainability factor. We can, and I know you've got the nonprofit Computers for Community. There is a lot that can be done to, continue taking devices that can live another life, maybe another a year or two perhaps, but while you then work towards making a shift to we'll call it a fit client, right? That's a word that came up. You had the thin client, the fat client, and now a fit client, right? It's because with the world we live in, as we're doing Zoom and Teams calls and we're consuming that from the cloud or whatever, and you need a good piece of hardware, if that's what your use case is, that can handle that. And IGEL has been, right up front with a lot of those capabilities for the last couple of years, for sure. More like 3 years, I guess, in the last, with the pandemic and everything. So there's a lot of excitement about what's coming, and certainly you'll hear more about it here in Nashville. If you haven't a ticket, by the way, we have some discount codes we can talk about later.
So Barry, any more positives you want to bring up about Cosmos? Because I'm getting ready to poke at it just a little bit. To tell you
The first thing I want to say, obviously, as an ex-IGEL administrator, I love the idea of the modularity of it all, simply for, ease of management, but also from a security perspective, right? I'm not deploying, versions of software that I'm not using. So that attack surface is greatly reduced. Obviously IGEL is secure by its very nature, but the less bits on the box, the better.
Yeah. Hey,
I should trade that. Less bits on the box. I like that.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
At the very least, we should have a T-shirt that says that.
There you go.
Less bits on the box. Bring them to Disrupt.
We should probably talk about a few Disrupt T-shirts that we can, funny ones. Okay. All right. So Chris, this is great. You can still see my screen or see your screen or both. You see that orange box in the middle that has the UMS, on-premise piece still in play? I want that to go away at some point. It ought to be a cloud service. to the best of your ability, when is that coming, if ever? And maybe you can't comment on that. I don't know.
I don't have this. Well, it is being looked at, right? And just so you know, it UMS in this graphic, it could be on-prem or in the cloud. What's really cool, we haven't really talked too much about it, but we have introduced what's called the unified protocol, and meaning everything's 443. That is, it's game changer in the sense of the whole management component. It's the ICG piece of this thing, be able to manage devices. Probably worth spending time on a separate podcast on that topic alone. I'll see if I can pull some details up about it, but that's a big piece of this too. And I think now that that's out with this version, that's going to actually be a precursor to what we can do in the future versions with maybe a SaaS-based option of the management piece that you're referring to.
I mean,
hopefully,
because I just want it to be a native cloud service, not a Windows box running a x86 app as a service in a cloud somewhere. You get my point, right?
Yeah, well, I came from the world of the appliance-based scenario. It was physical hardware, and then it became a virtual, and it still is virtual, and it's easy to deploy in various hypervisors. Now also the cloud. I would love to see something similar. That's just me speaking for myself, not for IGEL, but I think that idea, a Linux-based machine running UMS or whatever, right? Maybe it's, I don't know. These are all ideas, but
well, and keep in mind, if you want that type of, it's in the cloud, I don't know what it is, don't care what it is, reach out to Barry.Browne with an E on the end at XenTegra.com, and we can make that happen today. It's not a native cloud service, but we can make it feel like it is to you. Yeah,
no, I think that's also a great piece of this is, we introduced subscription licensing last year, and that's all what you get with UMS in OS 12. But that also kind of plays into a lot of capabilities that our partners can offer. By having this system already ready to go, it's easy to take a customer that maybe just wants to try it out. And, what's your use case? Well, I want to get to a Citrix desktop and experience that, not have to manage it, and I need to be able to access X, Y, and Z things or whatever. That literally, like with this, do these couple things, and you're going into your system. You're already controlling that experience, and hopefully getting them to make a decision on going forward, and you guys kind of handling that from soup to nuts, endpoint all the way to the cloud. So we can do it today with version 11, but UMS 12 and this Cosmos capability will make it just accelerate that even further.
Chris, just before we move away from this good looking chart here, one piece we haven't talked about is the IGEL Insight service. I'm not familiar with that, and I suspect a lot of our listeners aren't either. That's a new one to me. Can you give us a high level overview of what that is and how it fits into Cosmos?
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably, I would say, some metrics about what's going on the endpoint device. It's not designed to replace like a fully featured product like Control Up, for example, or Liquidware. Some of those that obviously have quite robustness, but for customers that want a little bit of detail about what's going on or whatever, that is just information that's getting fed up into, and I think available through the UMS console piece, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But we have some of that today. It was kind of like there was that asset inventory tracker. There was bits and pieces of that, and so it's kind of a little bit of that plus maybe a few other things. But it's definitely not designed to, take over what these other products that truly do great things. Those will be apps essentially. Those Control Ups or the Liquidware, those will be apps in the portal, for example, that can plug right into the OS, and so that's what that I will see Chris, before we. Yeah, go ahead.
The IGEL Insight service. I'm assuming that's something you opt into, putting that data up there.
I think that was. I was actually getting ready to pull up a link to that so I could speak to a little bit more, but I believe there is an opt-in piece. Let me. We're doing this live, kids. Just make sure. Hang on. Let me see if I can.
And it's okay to come back and tell us next week. You don't have to have all the.
That's fine. No, it's a good point. I'm looking for right now. But anyways.
Chris, let's talk what it takes to move from what customers currently have to Cosmos. Can you paint a picture for us what that's going to look like?
Well, it'll most likely obviously start first and foremost with getting your UMS updated from version 6 to the new version 12. You'll notice UMS 12 and OS 12 are now on the same numbering components, because once you get that foundation piece there, that will allow you to continue to manage your version 11 devices, which you'll probably have for a little bit of time until you're able to upgrade them or whatever. And then obviously bring in the net new, and that obviously includes, there's a licensing piece. We call it a platform access subscription, PAS, if you will, PAS. And that basically it's like Workspace Edition with all the other stuff. The EMP kind of piece is going away, but that license is the new name for what we more or less introduced last year with the subscription. So you'll be able to manage both of those licensing, kind of, get to that point. And then over the course of time, as your devices begin to upgrade or change to version 12, you'll have that piece. Now, obviously that version of UMS will be able to plug into, there'll be a public app portal. Anybody can go and see what's there. There's also the option for a private. If a customer has a private, maybe they have a custom app. I know you guys do some custom work. Maybe there's an app that gets built by XenTegra, for example, and it's for customer X only. It's not a publicly available thing. There might be a private app portal that can be used for that customer. And so, but it would start, generally speaking, with getting that management piece up first or upgraded to, and then now you've got that foundation built, then you can kind of bring in the other piece to include that onboarding service experience. I know there's some videos out there that have been shown, but start there and then be able to expand your world.
So before we move on, that's the technical pieces. Barry, any questions around what Chris is describing on the technical side of it?
At high level, licensing is going to come up no matter what. Chris, is it fair to say if you have active maintenance on your OS 11 licenses, you're entitled to 12? I know you're not a sales guy, so if you don't know the answer, that's fine.
First of all, I am a sales guy. I just happen to have I'm a large S and a large E, just so you know. I'm at 49 years old. I've been doing this a long time. So yes, you are entitled. So we went through this yesterday on our company meeting, like 4 key scenarios, right? So there is you're entitled to upgrade to the next thing, right? And if you're already on subscription licensing today, sort of that path, I can get you more detail. There's an FAQ on that, but if you're on 11 and you got licensing already there, then you would be in a pathway to get to upgrade to version 12. So.
Well, I know that's going to be the number one question I get asked by customers. Never mind all the technical bits and pieces. Can I get it?
Well, again, the main thing is it's a 1 SKU thing, right? We went to this 1 SKU option. Is it 1 year or 3 year to include maintenance and support? So that was introduced last year, and that's still in place now, just under the Cosmos Pass thing, right? So then it's what type of support? You got the base select, never sell that. That just comes with it as a partner. You guys are top tier partners. So priority or priority plus, right? Those are the 3 options. 1 SKU, select, priority, or priority plus. That's it. 1 or 3 years. So
I have to assume, Barry, most of our customers are in good shape. We've already got them where they need to be, but there may be some that are behind, and we'll have to have conversations, figure out what we can do to help them.
Exactly. So I'm arming myself for those conversations via this podcast.
Yeah. There you go. That's why we do it. It's okay. Here's what we think. Now go listen to this podcast. Let's talk again. It's knowledge is power. I think I learned all the things I needed to learn from watching cartoons when I was a kid. All these little slogans.
Saturday mornings.
No. Let's see. I'm going through availability. You said sometime in April, Chris?
Yeah, I believe. It says first. I believe that actually got slightly changed. If I'm not mistaken, it's now like about mid-April, maybe the 16th or 18th or something like that.
So So here's the way I would put it. We've been stuck in the thin client mud for 20 freaking years, like literally 20 years. IGEL showed up a couple of years ago, started moving it forward. One example was Barry mentioned these like Citrix Workspace app. There's 3 of those embedded into the IGEL OS already. So, needing to go forward, backwards, that was one example of a huge way that IGEL has impacted, elevating the game there. And then I don't know if the others have done that or not. I bet they haven't. And then now something like this, it totally revolutionizes the thin client operating system world, that smart client access device. If we have to wait another 3 months, just knowing it's coming is refreshing.
Oh yeah, it's like there's a lot of noise that you'll be hearing about as we get ready for the big Nashville meeting coming up here, and then shortly thereafter we've got other events that are kind of going on, but yeah, that's a big one. And then I just put a link there, igel.com/cosmos. There's some information there, including this press release, but also some tip sheets or product sheets that kind of speak to some of the stuff. And if you are an IGEL Academy person, you can go in and there's a course on Cosmos, about an hour long, to kind of give you an update on that. So I definitely encourage you guys to go there and spend some time. It just walks you through in a little bit more detail some of the information that you've got here. So.
Okay. Just a quick mention on the IGEL Academy stuff. I did that a week or 2 ago when it was first released, and it's top-notch content. It's very well produced, well executed, and there's some really valuable information for anybody who's interested in Cosmos and iOS 12, OS 12, UMS 12, and the various cloud components to come along with it.
Yeah, on that point, thank you for that feedback. I'm gonna let them know. We actually hired a guy who was a teacher by trade. My wife's a teacher, so near and dear to me. But he wasn't maybe a technologist, but he understood how to take a lesson plan and putting into that and just sort of build out that. And he was very much on the cutting edge of that in terms of using a platform that we've got to be able to make that flow and then make it, a very well produced kind of thing. So, but his name's Mike Wyrick, really good dude. And he's definitely helping our buddy Ed Webster there as we put out more and more type of stuff in Academy.
So guys, this one of the links you sent me, Chris, had this link embedded in it. Top reasons why IGEL Cosmos is the perfect end user computing solution for the cloud era. Let's not talk about it now, but let's add this to the list of podcast topics. Let's cover these top 10,
a good one, yeah.
Or top 15.
Top 15.
Yeah, let's put that on your list of things to cover in the coming weeks.
That'd be a 2-hour podcast. Wow.
Oh, maybe it's a 2-parter.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I think we have run up on my time limit for today. I appreciate you joining, and more to come. Again, kudos to IGEL for making thinner operating systems and the management and services that go along with that a real business and not just a bolt on to the legacy thin client world. This is way overdue. And this is a big step. Already been some big steps from IGEL to kind of elevate this game, but this is a big step. I'm gonna throw a NASCAR racing one on you. This reminds me of the old days in the 80s when one guy would get a 1-lap lead on everybody else because they thought differently. That's what this feels like to me.
Yeah, we're very much excited to let this finally get out the door. There'll be some learning curves along the way, but I think it's primed and ready. And again, we haven't even really talked about what the actual OS looks like. It's very, very, it's very pretty. I'll just say it's very modern look and feel. We could probably spend a podcast on that. So there's really cool things you're gonna be able to do with it that you had not been able to do before in version 11 or 10.
I've got an IGEL unit right here behind me. I use it when I sit down and do work during the day, and it didn't look very beautiful, but it was very practical. If you can take practical and appropriate and beauty and put it all together, now you've got something.
Yeah.
Just ask the guys from Apple. They start with beauty first.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Johnny Ives, I think, was
that's right.
So very much a marriage of those things, right? A beautiful piece of device that has a great OS and experience for the users. So,
All right, guys, I am out of time. Barry, Chris, thanks for the time today. We'll do it again next week.
all righty.
Sounds good.
Have a good one,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.